Devin Nunes, over the last year, has had 3 different defamation lawsuits thrown out of court. But never one to take defeat as an answer. Devin Nunes has now filed yet another defamation lawsuit, this time against Rachel Maddow and MSNBC, over claims that Maddow had made on her program, I believe, well over a year ago, where she said, correctly, that Devin Nunes, back when Republicans were in control of the House of Representatives, received a packet of information as the head of the Intelligence Committee, along with other Republicans on the Intelligence Committee, received a packet of information from a Ukrainian by the name of Andrei Derkach. And this packet of information allegedly contained damning information about Joe Biden from his time as Vice President of the United States. And Rachel Maddow had claimed on her show that Devin Nunes failed to give this packet of information to the FBI. Nunes says that this is not true. I totally gave it to the FBI, so now I get to sue you for defamation. Totally not how it works, Devin, but okay. So, did Rachel Maddow lie? Did Rachel Maddow knowingly lie? I will say, as people know, I am no fan of MSNBC at all, whatsoever. On a personal level, I do like Rachel Maddow. I've known her for many, many, many years, going all the way back to Air America. She's a very nice and intelligent human being. Would Rachel Maddow intentionally lie about something like this? Absolutely not. But here's what happened. Here's a little more backstory, by the way. Backstory that I'm sure Devin Nunes conveniently forgot to include in his lawsuit here. At the time, and for many months afterwards, Devin Nunes and his office failed to answer questions, refused to answer questions, including during a House hearing about what was in the packet and whether or not they handed it over to the FBI. They were being very coy. They were not answering these questions. They were not admitting at the time that they had given it to the FBI. So if during that time period, Rachel Maddow reported that he had not given it to the FBI, there's no defamation. There's no actual malice there. There's no intent there. It was just talking about a story that at the time was newsworthy and seemingly accurate. You can't sue somebody for screwing up facts. Sorry, but you can't. Especially when, based on all of the available evidence, what they believed to be true did appear to be true. So there's that. The timeline itself, by the way, which if he turned this over to the FBI, they would know when it happened, right? There would be records of these kinds of events, at least ballpark figures. So you compare when he did turn it over to the FBI, which we do not have an exact date for here, versus when Maddow made the comments on the air. If Maddow made the comments before he gave it to the FBI, case dismissed, and she should actually file a slap suit against him for attempting to silence her at that point. So that's what it is. But Devin Nunes here is doing what Republicans all over the place are starting to do. They're trying to weaponize these defamation lawsuits to shut down dissent. Devin Nunes, as an elected official, really doesn't have the grounds, thanks to a New York Times Supreme Court case, to sue. You know, the bar for a politician to prove defamation is insanely high to the point where most politicians don't bother doing it because they know they can't ever win these lawsuits. But think about this for a second. Rachel Maddow at the time was pushing this story that was being reported by countless other outlets. I found the story on Politico from the time, and that's where it explained all the backstory about he didn't, say he would turn it over. There was all this confusion. They refused to answer, including in the closed-door hearing with Sean Maloney, the Democrat. So anyway, the story was out there from everyone. But Republicans want to shut people up. They want to flex this muscle that they think they have, so they're filing these defamation lawsuits. And they lose them. And they lose them and lose them and lose them and lose them, but they're still doing it because they can afford to do it. And they're hoping that eventually some of these other groups aren't going to be able to afford, and maybe they'll settle. Maybe they'll shut up. Maybe they won't talk about you anymore out of fear. Hopefully people don't succumb to that. And here's the other thing. If Republicans want to play this game, then I think Democrats need to do it as well. Can you imagine how many defamation lawsuits Fox News could be hit with in a single day based on their programming and the lies that they knowingly tell about Democrats? Same thing with Newsmax. Same thing with people like Charlie Kirk. They could be literally sued every single day, pretty much, for the lies that they tell about Democrats. So if you want to go this route, if you want to turn defamation into a fun little game, then buckle the hell up. Because right-wing media is far more dishonest even than corporate media outlets like MSNBC. And y'all would be hit with basically a blitzkrieg of lawsuits for all of the crap you push on a daily basis. Ring of Fire has fresh content 7 days a week, so if you want to be reminded about it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell to be notified every time a new video goes up.